Hey, what's up, guys? Welcome into Good Morning Lambeau. My name is Clayton. You can check us out on packernet.com. You can find me on Twitter at Packers_access. You can email us, PackersTotalAccess@gmail.com. Email has been lit up here lately. I mean, it's just absolutely wild. You can also text us 865-658-5824. I'm joined alongside Tim live in Green Bay here to talk a little Packers offseason. Just doing a little roster eval this morning, Tim, and kind of breaking the entire thing down and some of the things that you need to put in place around Jordan Love on offense. You know, obviously you got your quarterback of the future. That's the big question this year that we got answered. There's some holes on offense as well. And then on the defensive side, I'm going to be real with you guys, man. I don't know how Joe Barry kept it together. These grades were horrendous. And understand the grades don't reflect the play caller. The grades don't reflect, quote unquote, the coaching, if you will.
Like they do reflect getting hit in the hand with a pick six and not catching it.
They do.
They reflect that.
They do reflect you getting into the backfield, 2 yards into the backfield, and sliding off the ball carrier, missing the tackle. It does reflect that. So
it definitely reflects the safety biting down on a RPO fake and getting beat over the top for a touchdown.
Yeah, there you go. So we're going to kind of lay it all out there, and there's a number of different ways you can approach this. And the way I like to do it, you've got needs because of the roster construction, but then you've got needs for how bad the team played. So what you're looking to do is first and foremost, you're looking to fill the roster, right? So you got to make sure that those holes that are being vacated, you've got to fill those back in. And then you key in on, okay, what did we do good? What did we do bad? Really specifically, what did we do bad? And the goal is to take that weakness and turn it into a strength every offseason, right? If you can do that, then you've really, really done your job as a front office. So when we look at the roster as a whole, we'll start on the offensive side. Let me just roll through the chat real quick and say hey to everybody before we do. Nick McSwain in the chat. What's up, buddy? Carly Ray in here. United Bates, Chuck Norris, Eric Sutherland, Mikey Kamuda. I hope I'm saying that right, buddy. Boz in the house. What's up, Boz? Good to see you in here. NFL Pack Boy. What's up, man? Zane Strong, Green Ranger. Got a whole crew in here. Randy Cleavers, good morning, buddy. Good to see you in here. So let's do this. Let's dive into I want to start a defense, but we're going to start offense, okay, just to kind of lay the foundation because the defense is a mess. We'll probably spend more time on the defense than the offense. So on the offensive side of the ball, as far as people that are leaving, okay, let's talk about the holes we're vacating. And we've hit on some of these guys. We've popped up the free agent list for you guys several times. I'll just flash it up here for you if you guys are new to the channel. This is kind of what we've been hitting on here. These are, you can see you've got UFA next to, under the status next to some of these players. Those are unrestricted free agents. They're hitting the market, okay? Then you've got restricted free agents, which means you can tender them. You can put a tag on them. Like, let me give you an example. Last year, Yosh Nijman, right? Yosh Nijman, they put, I believe it was a second-round tender on it. And what that means is those tenders are slotted by how much you're willing to pay them. So you slap the price tag on them. The league determines, all right, what is that equivalent to as far as in value with the trade. So we put like a $4.1 million tender, whatever it was, on Yosh. And that's deemed a second-round tender, meaning he's now our free agent because he was restricted. We were allowed to do that. And if another team wants him, right, they can come in and trade you a second-round pick. So it's got to be equal in value, that pick does, to the amount of money that you tagged on that player. Okay, that's kind of a very, very generalized definition of what a restricted free agent is. Then you've got what we call ERFAs, exclusive rights free agents. The best way to dive into ERFAs, guys, is if you want them back, you can get them back for pennies on the dollar. It's just really that simple. Okay, so I almost count these guys as if they're still on the roster because if the Packers do like them, then they'll be back, right? So let's start with the players who are departing on offense. The first one that comes to mind, I'm just going to go through the position groups. A.J. Dillon, he graded out as a 75.7, okay? So you've got Patrick Taylor, who is an ERFA. So if they want Patrick Taylor back, they'll have him back. So if that's the case, you've got 3 running backs right there, right? And keep in mind, too, you can use the draft to bolster that. It's totally cool. We're going to just talk about the foundation of the roster first. A.J. Dillon, 75.7, he's set to hit the market. Now, we kind of talked about it, and some of us were okay with putting $3.5 million on A.J. Dillon. The more I think about it, Tim, Emmanuel Wilson, he showed flashes. Granted, he was hurt most of the year, but his final grade ended up being an 80.0. And as Deadfish says in the chat here, good job, Tim. Wilson showed some promise, maybe using him a bit more, will keep Jones fresh. Completely agree. And, the fact that you've got a decent second back there without A.J. Dillon, it really gives you the leverage in negotiations with A.J. Dillon, too. The running back market's down, right? We've seen that. That was a big controversy last year. By the way, here's you want a teaser or a little tip here? What do we call it? Not a teaser, but a spoiler alert. That same argument we heard last year on the running back market being down, you're going to hear it again this year. Trust me. It's coming again, and the same people will be complaining about how running backs aren't respected enough and all this. It's coming. Brace yourself. So
now, looking at this draft, this is a running back light draft, right? There's not a lot of running backs, or is it the opposite? I'm trying to remember what.
Yeah, I'm not educated enough on the draft yet, Tim, to really, you know what I mean, to give an educated answer there. We're going to dive into it. I thought about doing a mock draft today, but we may do it tonight or the next day. But
okay.
I'm trying to get the free agent stuff in, you know what I mean? Because it is important to hit it first. Free agent's going to come. A lot of people will burn themselves out on the draft right now. They'll be doing mock drafts like crazy, this and that. And then all of a sudden free agency hits. You sign 2 players on the bottom of the roster. Now that's not a need. You wasted all that time looking at the prospects. I try to steer clear of that too much, but we will be doing mock drafts. But yeah, I'm not sure how deep the running back market is, or the running back room is in the draft itself. We could pull that information up really quick if we have time, though, for sure.
Okay.
A.J. Dillon, 75.7. Let him test the market. The market's down, like we said. You got Emmanuel Wilson, who's showing like, hey, look, I can be that backup running back, and probably a little more effective in the pass game than A.J., although A.J. took huge steps forward this year. But that's one that's departing there. In the tight end room, you got to bounce all the way down to the tight end room. Wide receiver room, like, here's the other thing, too. I highlighted the players in green who were above 70 PFF grade. Okay. So Jordan Love, 83.6, you're good to go. Aaron Jones, 80.9. Emmanuel Wilson, 80.0. So you're solid there. Wide receiver room, Dontavian Wicks, 77.8. You guys heard me say about 5 weeks ago, that's wide receiver 1 right there. Like, you've got to start getting him wide receiver 1 reps. 77.8. Number 2, 73.6 is Romeo Doubs. Then you got Jaden Reed at 73.3. So you got 3 players in the green right there. Bo Melton, by the way, only 100 and some snaps, like 170 snaps. Still a lot of snaps, though, right? 83.4. He actually led the team in PFF grade. It's just a much smaller sample size than the other guys that I tried to just kind of put him down the roster a touch. So your wide receiver room is good. Christian Watson, 68.2. Obviously took a step back with the hammy. But still 68.2, I think we would all agree that's not horrible, right? That's a good number 3 receiver if indeed these guys continue to grow past him. And I'm okay with that. I don't get hung up on one player. Right. You want to see Christian Watson explode, let defenses forget about him for 2 seconds, right? And he all of a sudden is your number 3 receiver. You bring him in on a 3rd and 4 play where it looks like you may run the ball, you run a play action, and he takes the top off the defense. They're going to start.
You guys, do you follow his dad on Twitter?
I don't follow his dad, no, but I've seen him on there for sure.
He's got some good stuff. Someone was calling out, trying to call out Scoot for the hamstring and being glass, the narrative. And his pops basically said, alluded to the fact that, we're going to figure this out. This offseason, we're going to figure out this hamstring issue. And so I don't know if they're working with their own team, maybe got some personal trainers or, personal doctors that are going to really take a look in depth. But I think that's cool, man. They're committed to keeping him on the field, and I love it.
Yeah, no doubt. They said he's already spent like tens of thousands of dollars on it out of his own personal money this offseason to try to get it figured out.
And we know rookie contracts don't pay a lot of money, so that shows you got a guy that's serious about ball and investing in himself. I mean, we know about the millions of dollars a year that Tom Brady spent on his body to be able to play this game for so long. So it's really cool to see a second year, going into his 3rd year player that's got that same kind of commitment. So keep your eye on Scoot. Don't write him off.
Yeah, hey, look, I'll turn it over to you here, Jacob, but a lot of avocado ice cream, right, down there with Tom Brady. That body, right. Go ahead, Jacob. What are you going to say, buddy?
No, nothing. To kind of answer Tim's original question or whatever, it's that draft is really not a heavy, at least on the top of the draft. I'm looking at PFF grades, and the highest one that they have listed is Jonathan Brooks at 58. So you're talking late 2nd round as far as that's the first I saw as far as a halfback. So, I mean, yeah, it could be one of those late rounds. I mean, I don't count out, obviously, late round running backs, though. We've had our luck with some guys like that. But as far as I was so ready to take a high pick with the running back. I just don't see it happening anymore just because there's not a lot there.
Yeah, for sure. Chuck Norris in the chat said, is there an update on merch? Chuck, I'm glad you're interested in the merch, buddy. I love your movies too, by the way.
I still the idea of Chuck Norris, like, oh, where's my PTA Posse shirt? Like,
so the merch store is up. I placed a test order the other day. To the best of my knowledge, it's still good to go. Now, again, we had to adjust some stuff. Like, for instance, rather than have Packers Total Access on the shirts, we did Packer Fan Total Access. We've got one with just a logo, and I'm in the process of creating some other stuff too. So if you see something in there you like, grab it, and I know Carly's going to put together a better mug than I did. I just tried to mimic yours, Carly, to the best that I could. I know she's got some alternate decals as well, some logos as well. So she'll get on that, I'm sure. But we're trying to work around that stuff because we want to make sure that we're not taking anything from the Packers in that regard. This is podcast merch. This isn't Packers merch, right? And that's what we're trying to make sure people understand in that regard. We definitely want to honor that system. So to answer your question, there is merch up. If you don't like what you see as far as designs in there right now, we're going to be putting out some more merch too. But if you see something you like I did, I grabbed a hoodie that says Packer Fan Total Access. What we'll probably just do is the PTA logo and Total Access on the shirts moving forward. I got to get started on that today. So not enough hours in the day for sure. But there you go. There's your update on the merch. All right, so back to the offense. We talked about the wide receiver room. I don't see any reason to intentionally go and try to add to the wide receiver room. That doesn't mean a great player doesn't fall to you and you take him. This might be the year they take one in the first round. That would not surprise me one bit. That, man, this wide receiver room's cheap. They're young. They're playing great. All of a sudden, Goody pulls the trigger on a first-round wide receiver. That'd be hilarious. Now, when you move on to the tight end room, you got Luke Musgrave at 68.1, Tucker Kraft at 60.4, Ben Sims at 60.5, Josiah DeGuara was at 51.7. He is an unrestricted free agent. I think you just let him walk, obviously. Henry Pearson, we mentioned him. That they kind of signed him to the roster or whatever. And we said, hey, look, that's maybe the backup for the plan for having a quote-unquote fullback. His PFF grade was 47.7. So for me personally, I think you're in the market for one tight end in that room. So nothing quarterback, maybe one at running back, but I wouldn't put any great need on it. Nothing in the wide receiver room, one tight end. And then when it comes to offensive line, this is the big, big glaring hole. Okay, so struggles this year. What did we point out on offense? Run blocking, right? Pass blocking too. I had actually broke it down. My old school paperwork here. This thing has already been beat all to hell. It ain't going to last through the offseason, fellas. I promise you that. So on offense, what was down this year according to the 33rd team? Rushing yards per carry, rushing total points, right? Now that could be the running back or that could be the offensive line. I think we would all agree it's the offensive line because look at Aaron Jones's grade, and you've seen him still rushing for a decent yards per carry there at the end of the year in spite of the bad run blocking. So you've got rushing, blocking total points was way down, and then you have pass blocking total points was way down according to the 33rd team in SIS data. Okay, so now on the PFF side, what was it? Run blocking grade 55.1, right? So their pass blocking grade at PFF says, nah, you're pretty decent at it, right? The run blocking grade, absolute booty cheeks. So you put all that information into a pot, what's it come away with? We need to improve the offensive line, don't we? Now, it just so happens when you go to the PFF side of things, David Bakhtiari grade now to 78.3. We know he's due like 30. I think the number settled in at 39 million is what the cap hit's going to be this year. So there's no way he's going to be back on that cap number, right? It's going to take a restructure in the contract, him taking a little bit of a pay cut for him to be back. If he doesn't come back, you're freeing up roughly 20 million. If he does come back, I'd like to see you get him down to about 32 million cap hit, freeing up another 8 million in cap space. But as it sits right now, David Bakhtiari, 78.3 at left tackle. Elton Jenkins, 63.8. So he had a down year for sure. Although there are some metrics, and this is why you got to cross-check, cross-reference with SIS data. There are some that he is, one of the best, if not the best pass blocking offensive guards in the league. It's just, certain aspects of his game is what's taking a hit. Josh Myers, center, according to PFF, 54.7. Now keep in mind, 33rd team, they had him as the 9th highest center in the league in total points per play, or per game rather. So take that as you will. To me, when you're that bad on PFF and you're not that, according to the 33rd team, you're probably somewhere in the middle of the pack at about 15 or 20. You know what I mean? Probably closer to 20 than 15, honestly. But nonetheless, it is a tier 2 position of importance. I think you got to look to upgrade there if at all possible. Now, do I think they're going to do that? No. I think the Packers like him. I think everything they've said in the media, they mean what they say and they say what they mean. I think he'll probably be back, and I wouldn't be surprised if there's no competition. Just want to point out, that's one of the big eyesores on the offensive line, according to PFF. John Runyon, we talked about him yesterday. 56.5 is what he graded out. Now he's going to be a free agent. He's leaving. Zach Tom, 79.7. So you're set at right tackle, just an absolute stud. I feel like you're set at left guard as well. And if Bach gets that contract down, you're set at left tackle. Rasheed Walker, 66.3. Everybody has convinced themselves that Rasheed Walker had like this all-pro season. Rasheed Walker played great for a late-round pick, and he showed improvement. He was kind of forged in the fire, right? But we got to stop pretending like, hey, this dude right here, let me tell you, Rasheed Walker, he is, just a slam dunk Pro Bowler or all pro. It's not the case. But again, 66.3, solid performance for him filling in at left tackle. It's a tough ask.
Yep.
Josh Nijman's going to hit free agency. 57.4 was his grade. So I'm of the opinion, let Josh test the market. If you don't get any offers, sign him for a veteran minimum. If you don't, if that doesn't work out, fine, we'll replace him. Guard Sean Ryan, he's going to be on the roster. 49.3 PFF grade. And Royce Newman, he's going to be on the roster, 40.9 PFF grade. So all that information, this is, if you use the color code system like my nerdy rear end does, okay, you've got center, right guard, tackle, and 2 more guards. So you've really got 5 holes that you could fill there. You could probably find an improvement walking down the street, right? You know what I'm saying? With that being said, and again, what was the negative aspect? Run blocking, pass blocking was down a touch, right? Run blocking was way down this year. So you want to take that negative, right? That weakness and try to make it a strength. That's how you approach it. So with all that assessment, it's a lot of stuff to cover. I think you need 1 tight end and 3 offensive linemen this offseason. That's going to kind of set the stage for free agency. That's also going to set the stage for the draft. Now, when you look at the offensive line from that perspective there, how many of those spots are going to be starting spots? Sean Ryan's setting the floor for you at right guard, right? I think it would be okay to go in free agency and try to find a good guard. I'm not saying break the bank, but try to find a starting caliber guard. There's nothing wrong with that. Maybe you can get a deal on one, but let's go around the horn with that. All that information, any direction y'all want to take it. Let's hear what you got to say, Tim.
I'm just looking at right guard, and I'm thinking like, this is clearly why. I mean, we don't have a starting caliber right guard. We've put Yash out there, or excuse me, we put Sean Ryan out there. JRJ has been out there, and it's like putting those two together has mimicked a starting right guard, and that's not going to be the answer in 2024. It can't be. So, yeah, free agency, draft, whatever we have to do, but some of those numbers, man, are astounding. Like you look at Sean Ryan's numbers. Normally, when you get lower snap counts, usually those guys grade out higher, right? Just by the fact that they have played a little less snaps than a lot of these starters. But it's like I'm looking at Sean Ryan's grade and I'm going, that's like you said, that's the floor. I don't even like that as the floor.
I don't either.
And I'm just being honest. And look, I'm not ragging on these guys at all. Sean Ryan's a good dude. He's a good teammate. And we can say that about a lot of guys on this roster. But at the end of the day, like you say, Clayton, and Jacob said this before too, at this level, it's a business. And, NFL stands for not for long. What have you done for me lately? Win it now. So we've got to address that issue. I'd almost say, you talk about center being more important position. And I 100% agree, but I feel like we got to get the right side of this line here figured out, because we got Zach Tom over there, who's certainly an anchor and has solidified his spot at right tackle. We got to put somebody next to him there. Yeah. I really believe it. And like you said, I think there's some logic to what you're saying about Josh Myers. He'll probably be back.
I think.
Eric Sutherland with a gem. I love this.
Eric Sutherland says Jacob Tamaki in Green Bay, a quarterback in the first round. They're actually going to trade up for a first two. Gotcha. Yeah. There you go. We're going to go to the old school.
About that?
Oh, yeah.
What do you think, Jacob? What sticks out to you about all this info, man?
I mean, I'm started to nerd out already this morning. I woke up really early and I was like, oh, let's look at the old PFF rankings. And I started getting excited.
Man.
One guy that caught my mind actually was brought up by Deadfish, Jackson Powers Johnson. He's the number one ranked center. Pretty much.
He's a stud, dude.
Dude, I think that he could kick out and play guard easy, but in a pinch, we could maybe have him replace the center. Another guy to keep an eye on in my mind would be Jordan Morgan, tackle from Arizona. He's 6'6". I think his blocking grade was a solid 77. His passing grade was like an 84, and they were talking. I looked him up. He was the most mocked to the Packers, like at 25% of the mock drafts.
Got it. Good stuff, man. Let's see here. There was somebody in the comments. Drew D said, I'd feel a lot better about getting a starting left tackle to pair with Tom and have Walker be the backup. I'm even okay with Nyman as the number 4, but Walker as a starter and Nyman as a backup is a bit weak. I completely agree, Drew. And you know, Rasheed Walker may take a huge step forward next year, right? That could happen. But when you put all your eggs in that basket, if he does struggle, man, there's nothing worse than having a faulty left tackle trying to protect your franchise quarterback, man. That's going to get ugly really, really quick. And Drew D goes on to say, I'm pounding the table to sign Connor Williams at center. So I just pulled that up real quick as far as the free agencies. Connor Williams right now is listed. This is according to the Pro Football Network. He's listed as the 3rd best interior offensive line that's set to be a free agent. You got Robert Hunt, number 1, Kevin Dotson, number 2, Connor Williams, number 3. Now, what I was going to try to do is pull that up on Spotrac, and let's just kind of get an idea of what Connor Williams' market value is going to be. All right, so he's listed as the 3rd best here on their chart as far as free agents. So they're saying that his calculated market value will be $13.5 million average annual salary. So they're talking about cap hit, right? They're saying the base calculated value of the contract would be 5 years, $59.1 million with an average salary of 11.8. They compare him to the likes of Frank Ragnow, Corey Linsley, Eric McCoy, Mitch Morse. All those average out to what we talked about, the average prime percentage change of 15.7%. That brings you to 5 years, $67 million, $13.5 million per. So he's a center. If you brung him in, there you would fix your center spot, but that's a big chunk of change, ain't it, Phyllis? I mean, you're talking about $13.5 million. Listen, we're in a lot better shape. I love how people just thought that getting rid of Aaron Rodgers was going to fix all the problems in the salary cap. It's like I always say, it's never as bad as it sounds. It's never as good as it sounds. All right. People will try to feed off of the extreme of both of those sides of the argument, but you could make that work. If you went out and got a Connor Williams, I would lose my mind. You guys know how I feel about the center position. I think it's, on offense, you've got left tackle and you got quarterback. And then in tier 2, it's center. I don't have anyone else listed in tier 2. I think it's those 3 positions are your most important positions on offense, in my opinion. Center is the only person that touches the ball every single play other than the quarterback. In some cases, people are running wildcat and direct snaps. So you could argue the center touches the ball more than anyone on the football field. So he's 26 years old too. Tim, what do you think, man? Cap hit. Let's go around the horn with that. And this is why I wanted to do this exercise, because there's going to be names like this get brought up. Would you be willing to pay $13.5 million per year cap hit on average to bring in a center that you think, okay, this guy's proven he's a real deal?
Ask me that question after we figure out Bakhtiari's situation.
Right. Because that's the thing too. Now think about this. If they decide to move on from Bach and you free up roughly $20 million, there's your money. And you got 7 left, right? But now
Right.
you got to think, what are we doing at left tackle? Are we drafting a first-round left tackle to say, all right, plug and play? Is Rasheed Walker going to be good enough that, hey, that's the guy, right?
Or do you go to free agency for that, right? Do you
Right.
bring in a veteran, contingency plan for, $5 to $7 million a year or whatever it's going to take, and see how that goes. I know Preston Smith made comments yesterday when they were cleaning out lockers saying that we need to have a championship off season, is what he said, and have that focus in the off season. So, maybe Rasheed Walker does take that step. Maybe he grinds out a heck of an off season and shows up to camp a new man and a solid wall over there at left tackle. But we can't bank on that. We won't know until probably at least preseason or first quarter of the season how he's looking. So I think we got to figure out the the Bakhtiari deal, but I'm not opposed to paying a center like that or taking a cap hit on a prospect at center that could be there for the long haul. Because hey, look, we know Jordan's going to be here, and that quarterback center chemistry is a real thing. Ask Brett Favre and Frankie Winters, and like it's true. So yeah, I'm not opposed to that. I don't know, Jacob, what do you think?
I don't know, man. I'm so gun shy now about paying guys because it just seems like the second thing you give them these massive contracts that either they get injured or the play just kind of seems to level off.
Yeah,
And
that's a common thing too, man. It
I
is.
mean, I really just think that I like the competition. I like the young guys, like that whole aspect of don't draft when you need, draft, for backup kind of thing. And then that way, if God forbid you have an injury, somebody moves away, they want to get off the team or whatever the case is, you have that base that we've talked about, which is again what's so important about the offseason is building from the base level up. Really making sure like we talked about that, signing those practice squad guys. That's like your base floor, right? That's your foundation of what you have, that bottom of the team. And if you can keep making that level grow and grow and grow, I think that's going to be massive. And again, 14 draft picks. Like, I don't know if we package some of those and really think about like we could make some moves in this draft. And the Packers are lethal in the second round. I see a lot of potential for a lot of different positions. If you look through like that PFF and just filter those results for just like guard, tackle, and center. I mean, there's a lot of dudes there, and there's some really, really good looking guys that grade out very well. So I could see the Packers again doing some of those things that they do when they take 3 stabs at wide receiver, 3 stabs at quarterback, 3 stabs at the offensive line, whatever that case may be.
Yeah. And when you look at, what's up, Emilio? When you look at the left tackle market, right, we were just talking about that and saying, okay, if Bach isn't going to be on the roster, do you try to fill that void in free agency? Let's say you did go for a center like a Connor Williams, right, and you try to fill that hole at center. The top offensive tackles, as far as free agents, Mike Owanu from, I think he was in New England, if I remember correctly. You got Jonah Williams, Tyron Smith, Mekhi Becton, Trent Brown, Donovan Smith. Yosh Nijman is listed as the 7th best. George Fant, Jermaine Illuminor, I think is how you say it, and Josh Jones. So when I went to the market value, there's only one that's listed with the market value, and that's Jonah Williams. So keep in mind, Tyron Smith, 33 years old. Andres Pete, 30 years old. Dwayne Brown, 38.3, right? These are some of that are listed as tackles. Some of them are guards, but they can play tackle as well, okay? So if we go to Jonah Williams, who's a right tackle, who's 26 years old, his market value is showing $14.9 million. So just a touch more than what we talked about for center there, right? So, again, that comes out to some of the comps are DJ Humphreys, Donovan Smith, Taylor Decker, Deion Dawkins, right? And when you take Jonah Williams, you've got an average prime percentage change of about negative 5.5%. And your calculated market value for him now would be 5 years, $74.6 million, 14.9 average annually. So another direction they could take it is signing, someone like that in free agency at left tackle. But again, this is if Bach is not here. The other option would be, like I said, to try to get Bach's cap number down to about $32 million. You keep him, you're set at left tackle. You can now draft, like I said, I think we could see as many as 3 new offensive linemen added. I'm not talking about just camp bodies either. I'm talking about actually on the roster all year. I think that could happen. Not that you would spend a ton in free agency to do it, but you're going to have that kind of void unless you just want to run it back with a team that really, really underperformed run blocking. So, Emilio, anything you want to add to this conversation? Man, I know you just rode out of bed. You've been in the whiskey all night.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He not only rambled, but he rumbled and stumbled. Yeah, that helped me start it off here. No, but honestly, hearing you guys talk about it, I would honestly feel a little bit better just keeping Josh. He finally got his head on straight. We're got the calls squared away, and spend a little bit more. Spend a little bit more left tackle, right guard, and shore that up because, like you said, he's touching it every time. Him and Jordan, I feel like they've got a little vibe going now that we went through that rough snap where he didn't snap it on the QB sneak, all that stuff. There's just those little things that we'd have to hammer out again next year. So I wouldn't be opposed to maybe, looking at that left tackle, right guard a little bit more, closely like that. Because then he's also got the connection with Elton. If we could get 3 out of the 5. And it's not like every team is going to have, 5 stellar O linemen. It's not like we're going to have the top 5 O line, the top 5 wide receiver, QB, all that. We're going to have to pick something that's not perfect, and work with it. So I'd be cool with that.
Yeah, and some people were hearing you say that about Josh Myers and going, Emilio, he graded out a 54.7. Again, this is just one side of the coin. You go to the 33rd team, they had him graded out as the 9th best center in the league. So you got to take everything into account, right? With all of that information put in a pot together, me personally, I think the route we should go is if Bach is willing to take that pay cut, I'd like to see him back at left tackle. You got Rasheed Walker as a backup tackle. You go out and try to find you a solid guard or a solid interior offensive lineman to try to plug that gap on the right side. And you could probably do that. Interior offensive lineman, that value drops significantly after those top wave of guys go. You could probably get a better deal on a right guard. You now have a new starting right guard. He doesn't have to be great. Just he'll give me 65 PFF. You know what I mean? Just somewhere in that range. And okay, we can work with that. That might be the best way to fill it in. But again, with everything and how everyone underperformed, one thing we're not talking about, and I don't like to call for people's jobs, but Coach Butkus, offensive line coach, I mean, you got to step back and go, what are we doing run blocking? You've seen it all year. I mean, it was bad. Pass blocking, yeah, they played good, but the run blocking is like, and also, if you want to run it through another filter, how do we draft offensive linemen? You never hear about Green Bay going, oh, they drafted this guy. He's a road grader. He's one of those run blocking. It's always footwork, pass blocking technique, right? So maybe Coach Butkus is taking a little too much heat from me there, and the fact that he's trying to make chicken salad out of what, right?
Feels like the defense, just like a huge emphasis on protecting Jordan in this first year, and maybe that run blocking got lost in the mix a little,
right?
Yeah, and I don't disagree with it. You know what I mean? Like that should be top priority, right? And you've seen it's one of, if not the main reasons we had success this year was Love doing that little fadeaway, buying that extra second, right? If you do go too far, swing the pendulum too far in the opposite direction, now you got him running for his life like some of these other young quarterbacks. That we definitely don't want that.
Right. But the same thing that goes on with the defense and having the pass rush versus the run stop. Same kind of idea. I feel like. And he was just like, hey, let's just protect Jordan, give him a shot, and see how it goes.
Yeah.
You want to be balanced, and it's hard to achieve that, right? You got. It's like you'll take being great in one category as long as you can be at least good in another. And I think that's what we're looking at in run blocking here is like, let's get good at least to complement this really good pass pro that we have.
Yeah, absolutely. Eric Sutherland in the chat said Newman, Ryan, and John Runyon is like stepping in 3 piles of dog crap at once. They've underperformed, man. There's no doubt about it. What's wild to me, though, you always got to kind of step back and go, okay, what is the common thread here? Think about this. Just hear me out a second. 3 years ago, at least 2 years ago, might have been 3 years ago, Royce Newman had a decent year. We're like, man, look at Royce Newman at right guard, right? Now his play declines, right? So John Runyon takes over. He had a good year. Was it last year? We were like, man, his pass blocking is solid. He's played good. This year he declines. What is it about the right guard position? Is it, are they asking too much from that position? Is there something we're not seeing behind the scenes that makes that right guard grade out so bad according to, PFF? And the blown block percentage, don't get me wrong, was horrendous with John Runyon too. That's why I cross-checked that. After I heard him get emotional about being a Packer last night, I was like, man, I'm trying to find any reason possible to bring this guy back, and it's just not been there. Unless, of course, the market isn't there for him. You bring him back on a minimum, and there's another backup for you, that knows the system, knows the calls, is familiar with working with Josh Myers and all that. So,
right. But to that point, Clayton, I mean, we had Josh in there that whole time, right? So there's some consistency there, but we can rotate a right guard and it's not killing us. It's not that big of a deal that it's a revolving door right there. We're still making it work. That's what kind of gets me excited about having like a solid 3, 2 to 3 you can count on. But that's exactly it, man.
Especially considering injuries, over the course of the season.
Right. Josh has been there, right? Everybody on the right guard's been hurt. Elton's had hit his thing here or there. I mean, consistency is staying on the field. So we've seen that.
I like what Reef says here, and I'm okay with this kind of talk and these kind of moves in the offseason. I just don't like it in season when you start shuffling people around. But if you make this decision going into the season, I would have no problem with this. He said, get a right tackle and then go from left to right. Bakhtiari at left tackle, Zach Tom at left guard, Elton Jenkins at center, Josh Myers at right guard, and then your new right tackle. Think about that. You know, if you were to go out and get that top right tackle that we said for $14 million, right, and you shave off that, you know, $7.5 to $8 million off a box contract, you shuffle it around here, Elton Jenkins, I think your center position will be good to go if he was the center. I feel the same way about Zach Tom too, by the way. But you've got to have someone to fill in at right tackle. You've got to plug that hole too, right? So yeah, if you were to go out and get a rookie right tackle or sign one in free agency, if you could pull that off for a decent amount, that might be another way to go. But again, I'm cool with that in the offseason. When people start talking this type of stuff in season, I'm going, hold up. Now, if one injury happens, you're moving 2 or 3 players rather than just plugging and playing one guy into one spot. You know, that's where you really cue the circus music. But I do want to say, if you guys enjoy this type of content, scan that QR code in the upper right. That will send you to Packernet Podcast where you can find this one. I've had a ton of people reach out and go, Clayton, I can't find your podcast. I'm typing in Packers Total Access. It's under the Packernet Podcast Network, okay? That we love being a part of that network. They've got a ton of other podcasts. Some people complain this time of year. They go, man, there's nothing to listen to from Packers. You will get – I would feel really comfortable saying with the Packernet Podcast Network, if you're subscribed to them on wherever you get your podcasts, you'll probably have at least 2, maybe 4 shows every single day this offseason. That's how much content we're going to churn out. So if you like to plug in the offseason, scan that QR code or just search Packernet, Packernet, one word. That will send you to the Packernet Podcast Network. Make sure you subscribe there, and you'll get notifications every time we put a new pod up. Like this show we're doing right now, as soon as we're done, it will get ripped and go into podcast form immediately. It'll be scheduled. Like this show here will probably go live at 4 o'clock today. So just so you kind of know. But yeah, I like Reef's idea there. I think that's another way that you can look at the offensive line. Nick McSwain said a good center makes a whole O-line better. It's so true. It is so true. They are the quarterback of that offensive line. There's no two ways about it. And you guys, that's why I was like, I hate that we're not acknowledging the fact that we missed on Myers. And when I say missed, it doesn't mean that he is the worst center in the league. It simply means you spend a second-round pick on a guy, you expect him to be top tier. Like, you know, and the guy that got drafted right after him has played absolutely solid in Creed Humphrey. And that dude already won a Super Bowl, right? Well, I know Super Bowls aren't a center stat. I got telling you, man, the great teams in the league, they've got good centers. They've got good centers. And we kind of said the same thing about tight ends last year too, didn't we? We were like, you know, you look up and these teams that are always competing, like look at the Chiefs again, right? You got Mahomes and Kelsey. And, you know, here you go, Detroit, right? Look at Detroit competing. Look at what Sam Laporta did this year. Now, look at what Green Bay did. Go get Musgrave and Tucker Kraft. It wasn't even great. These guys are grading out in the 60s, right? What was Tucker Kraft? Let's see. Luke Musgrave finished at 68.1. Tucker Kraft finished at 60.4. It wasn't even great. And look at how it just revamped the offense, right? So tight ends are important too. But, yeah, I'm with you on center, man. It makes the whole offensive line so much better. Let's see here. C-Dub Irving says, I just hope we bring Jones back. If these last 5 weeks show us anything, it's the offense is much better when Jones is going, and he proves he still has it. He'll be back, C-Dub. There's no doubt in my mind. I'm still baffled that last offseason people were calling for him to be traded. It's just like,
right.
What are we talking about?
You think we'll rest him at the beginning of the season again, kind of ride it out?
There's no reason for him to be doing anything in practice other than what he feels like I need to do this to sharpen myself and get myself ready for the season. He is the perfect example of what NIR rest, right? The veteran rest schedule is made for right there. So, yeah, C-Dub, what I expect to happen, I think his cap hit is somewhere around $17 million, if I remember correctly. Last year, they gave him a pay cut, but he pointed out, still the most money he's made in his career, and it's because the market was down. The market's still down in the running back market. So what I think they'll do is go back to him again, and you'll probably see that number get shaved back down to somewhere between 10 and 12 million will be my guess. So I think we'll have him back. That's another thing too. You're going to be freeing up roughly, at least I think you'll be freeing up $5 million in cap space with Aaron Jones. So you throw that in conjunction with the worst case scenario, David Bakhtiari isn't back. Now you've got $25 million extra, cap space there to kind of bolster this roster. And that's the thing too. Like if you remove all the personal feelings about these players and everything, the great season that we just had that just completely surprised the NFL world, we did it without Bakhtiari. So it's not like, yeah, but if you let him go, we get worse. We would be better with him on the roster, but we just seen what the team can do without him, right? So it's not like everything hinges on him coming back, although you guys know I've been really vocal. I'd like to see him back. How cool would it be, too, if somehow, some way it pops up and his cap hits down to $25 million? You know what I mean? That's a possibility. I doubt it, but that's a possibility there, too. So, yeah. I think Jonesy will be back, though. Anything else y'all want to hit here as far as what we've covered so far? I'm going to comb through the chat. Let's just kind of go around the horn here once. Anything else y'all want to touch on? Because, again, I know Emilio, Jacob, y'all came in a little late. What I came up with on offense, I think you need one tight end. We'll start with you, Jacob. I think we need one tight end and 3 offensive linemen. And how would you like to see them approach that, I guess, is the best question.
I think you definitely got to go offensive line early and often, and then pepper in maybe a late round tight end. To get lucky with a guy like a Kraft, you can maybe find in the 3rd or 4th rounds or something like that. But I would look for them to get an offensive lineman similar to an Elton Jenkins. A lot of people forget that guy was pretty much a starter at center in college, and he had the ability to kick to guard, and then obviously had the ability to kick out to tackle. So if you found a guy that's that versatile and can like plug holes like we talked about, because injuries are always going to happen and that kind of thing, so it would be just really great if we had somebody that at least could kick from like center to guard or maybe guard to tackle kind of thing. You don't have to play all 3, but it'd be nice if they were a little versatile.
Yeah, for sure, man, for sure.
Yeah, I would to that point, I would just hammer O-line, like Jacob said, just keep firing. And honestly, I really don't even think we need to snag a tight end, just because we're working, Tyler Davis be coming back. DeGuara, yeah, he's probably gone, but we can find, someone walking down the street and throw him in there. I mean, it's a little bit more as an H-back. If we can find somebody that's, a fullback tight end sort of thing in the late round, like from some tinier school, smaller school, something like that. You don't get a lot of playing time. But besides that, I think just hammer the O-line, go from there. Just give us the most chances at it. It's not like we didn't try to go for some skill positions. We grabbed Lou Nichols there in the 7th. So like we'll shoot at something like that, later on in the rounds, and we still have the picks for it. But more important would be line.
And Drew D said, someone call up Frankie Winters. Let's see what old Frankie's into nowadays. Yeah, which, by the way, here we go. I've been watching from 1995 Packers Falcons. It was in December. Man, it was so much fun. John Madden and Pat Summerall calling the game. I feel like I'm 9 years old again. You know what I'm saying? And they're in front of the TV. Dad saying, turn that damn thing down. Yeah. I just love it. Absolutely love it. So, yeah, call up Frankie Winters. That's a blast from the past. Trudy also went on to say, aren't we good at tight end with Musgrave, Kraft, Davis, and Sims? If Tyler Davis comes back, yes, if he returns. The problem is you got the injury, and then, of course, you got the uncertainty of the contract. I don't think he's going to get, wowed with any kind of major contract offers. Don't get me wrong. Right. That might be the way to go. And we know LaFleur really liked Tyler Davis. Mm-hmm. But I'm simply saying, as it sits right now, Josiah DeGuara is going to be a free agent. Henry Pearson graded out a 47.7. And if Tyler Davis does come back, let me pull up that free agent list to see if he's on there listed.
I think he was.
I think he was too. Let's just see what kind he was, though. Tyler Davis, actually, he is, right there. So he's an unrestricted free agent. So you'll let him test the market. He probably won't get any offers. You can bring him back. Here's the thing I'm saying, too. You like to run 12 personnel, right? You feel good about Ben Sims. Another route you can go, Drew, is, how did we get Ben Sims? Me and Jacob did a show as soon as they signed him. Jacob was all excited about him. Jacob was right. Ben Sims played good. Like, he played solid. I know he only graded out to a 60.5, but what else could you ask for coming off the street like that? That'll probably be the approach that Goody takes.
That was 0.2% or whatever you want to call points better than Kraft, wasn't it?
Right. Let's see. Now, actually, Tucker Kraft is 60.4. Yeah, you're right. Ben Sims was 60.5. I just had Kraft listed ahead because of, the way he
But still, I mean, that's my point is if you can snag somebody for cheap, why not follow the cheap route and draft something that's going to be more expensive down the line? Save your money if you can. Rotate those 4-year contracts, and on the expensive stuff, that's where I'm like, do we want to spend $14 million for a center, or just spread it out somewhere else and snag a couple of O linemen that we can rotate?
Right. Yeah. No, that's a good point. Very good point. So that's how we sit on offense. We're at the 45-minute mark. I don't think there's any reason to start to dive into the defense, but I'm cool with going around the horn and talking about anything else y'all want to talk about before we wrap up. What I'd hate to do is get 10 minutes in and us either go an hour and a half with the show and talk defense, or just save, you know what I mean? We could just save the defense for tonight's show. So,
sounds good.
Yeah, let's go around the horn here real quick. Tim, you got anything else you wanted to talk about? Anything on the forefront of your mind when it comes to the Packers in this offseason right now?
Go ahead and put Mikey's comment up there.
Oh, Mikey. Where's Mikey?
It's starred. Go ahead and put Mikey's comment on the screen.
It's starred.
There it is.
Oh, Mikey Kamuta says, guys, I scroll Packers fans' social media. Kickers in the first, quarterback and running back in the second. Laughing
We'd get first pick at the litter, kicker first there.
First round.
You
Can you imagine?
Run the card up there.
Remember Al Davis? Al Davis did it with Sebastian Janikowski, didn't he?
What a guy, though. I mean, he had a leg on him.
Bro, him bar fighting? Let's go. Like he got into a bar fight twice a year, it seemed like. I love it. Like,
Sebastian got notes from Nigel Gruff. That's who he learned it. That's who he learned it from.
I gotta think that this comes from a lot of the local sports talk here, especially in Wisconsin. The narrative is kicker, kicker, kicker. Anders Carlson. The kicker cost us. Kicker, and it just, I don't know. It just proves what my theory has been all along, right, guys? Like, just, I'm begging you fans out there, just make the smallest effort to try and understand the game better, and you'll see things differently. And you'll see it kind of like we have that, Anders Carlson is not the reason we lost to San Francisco. And the idea that after taking this guy and bringing him in and committing to him and developing him and seeing an 81% field goal percentage this year, the idea that you draft a kicker in the first round is just insane to me.
It's crazy.
I
want to say I can't be serious, but if you guys seen the DMs I get, good God Almighty, good. What we say
brings me to my next point. Don't smoke crack.
Yeah. Peter Stone says, hour and a half sounds good to me. I could listen to you guys all day long. I'm glad you could, Peter. Do you got a couch I can sleep on? Because my wife, I'm just telling you right now, man, every time I go downstairs, this is exactly how I feel.
Manny giving you the side eye?
Yeah, she's just like, you do know I'm still down here, right? Like, she's probably watching right now going, this knucklehead, airing out all of our issues here. I'm just looking for some emotional support, man.
Mm-hmm.
That's what she said.
Look, here we go. The rivalry is stoked up. Eric Sutherland says, can we talk about AFAM getting full cups of just foam at Starbucks and then acting like a tough guy on the keyboard? I love it, man. Absolutely love it. Let's see. Drew D says, I'm totally in favor of drafting special teams, but a kicker should never be drafted higher than a fifth, in my opinion.
But we could get a fifth-year contract out of him, Drew D. I'm kidding.
Could you imagine slapping the fifth-year option
on a kicker? Oh, we sold. I mean, he's the one.
Yeah. My gosh, you guys are off the rails, man. And you know what's crazy? What got lost in the shuffle of all this is at the presser yesterday, Coach LaFleur said, they said, are you thinking about bringing in competition for the kicking position? And he looked at him and was like, we're bringing in competition for every position.
Mm.
Like, you never know when you're going to find that next great player. Like, you know what I mean? At any spot. So,
like Goody turns the roster.
Absolutely, man. Got to give Goody. I'll tell you, man, Goody, I doubted him early in the year. Still don't like the Rasul trade. Don't get me wrong.
Mm-hmm.
But unless that third rounder that we traded, that we end up drafting from that trade, unless that turns out to be just an absolute stud, then I'll go, yep, I'm shutting up on Goody. But other than that move this year, and of course the whole Aaron Rodgers, how you handle the contract, there's no reason to guarantee that money to trade him the next year. That's just crazy. But other than that, man, that dude has put one hell of a roster together. And I love that they stuck beside Matt LaFleur too the whole time. You know what I mean? Matt, man, I'm just telling you that guy. Going into this year, I kind of looked at it like it's probably going to be a wash, and we'll really judge Matt next year to see what he does once the roster gets kind of completely revamped. But coming out of this year, I'm like, my God, man, give him a lifetime contract. What he did with the youngest team in the freaking league And that everybody's just putting it on Tom Clements, that Tom Clements is the one who molded Jordan Love. And I love Tom more than anyone, and he was asked about that yesterday too, Coach LaFleur was, and he was very, very vocal in, I'm not going to try to convince him to do anything he don't want to do, but we'd love to have him back. I consider him a good friend, and he's just made me a better coach. But we got to give Matt LaFleur some credit on kind of molding Jordan Love into what he's become too.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Who do you think you are? I am.
Exactly, Pete Weber. Got to give him his flowers. So.
And the death of aw shucks, Matt LaFleur. He's gone.
Jacob, he's gone, ain't he?
He's gone.
Yeah. No more chin strap. We're going full beard now.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Full Jacob.
That's right.
What do you think about that, Jacob?
Oh man, I'm just like I'm still dealing with the emotional part of it. Like honestly, seeing John Runyon like breaking up that much yesterday, like that still choked me up. But like at the same time, it's a business, and it's like all of a sudden, I don't know if you guys played Madden or whatever. If you ever do like the dynasty or the season mode, it's like my favorite part was once the season was over, I'm like, all right, now the off season begins, and you get to make all these different moves. It's
Let me fix this problem.
And yeah, the game starts over and it's like a puzzle piece or like a whole new strategy. So then you try down this avenue and you draft this guy, and then you know what I mean? So it is fun to see what new pieces are going to be plugged in and how much we can raise that floor level, because it is kind of crazy to think about. I mean, I just keep coming back. 14 draft picks. Like imagine what we can do if 3 of those guys end up being starters or just like future starters. That's like a decent draft. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
What if the current trend keeps and we've got half of our guys to 3/4 of the guys are end up being studs, or at least like puzzle pieces? I mean, this team could be scary for.
Then he trades 3 of them.
Yeah,
gets us 4 more for next year.
Really? Well, and look at am I crazy to think that we're getting a 4th from Lazard? I'll take that.
That's wild. Yeah, that's the thing too. The comp picks we haven't even talked about, right? We don't know exactly. And once the entire draft order is set, then we'll kind of dive into it. I hate kind of getting into it too early and not knowing exactly where we're even picking. There's 7-round mock drafts happening right now. We don't even know what picks we have. You know what I mean? So I know there's kind of a guesstimation of where we're going to be, but maybe we'll do a mock tomorrow morning. We get through the defense tonight. Maybe tomorrow we'll just do a kind of a live mock on the air and see how it turns out. That would be fun too, right? Mike Witt with the super chat. Thank you, buddy. Appreciate it. He said, honest question, does Matt LaFleur fire Barry? I hope personally the D played better, but remember Tampa and New York Giants games, fire Joe and hire Wink, in my opinion. I'm not saying I disagree with you on just the fire Barry comment in general, but the whole thing of we're judging him by his worst games, I think that's a recipe for disaster. Like, why? And, I'm not trying to take a shot at you, Mike. I appreciate the super chat, bud. I'm just trying to look at it, from, play devil's advocate here. Nobody mentions what he did to Kansas City. Nobody mentions what he did to Detroit. Detroit is legit. There's a good chance Detroit is going to be representing the NFC in the Super Bowl. And I challenge you to go back and watch the Thanksgiving Day game. Before the mop-up time, he dominated the Dallas Cowboys, right, in the wild card round. Before mop-up time, dominated them. But we only point to Tampa and New York. You know what I mean? And then when you go watch those games and you actually sit down and watch every single snap, you'll go, damn, why is Quay standing in the middle of the field and there's nobody 9 yards around him? That's not on Joe Barry. Didn't drop a defense and said, listen, Quay, listen to me, buddy. Everyone else on the field is going to be playing zone match, right? They come out in a quad look and they shift to 3-by-2. I want you to stand right in the middle of the field and cover no one. I promise you Joe Barry didn't tell him to do that. So you got to put that play on Quay. And we're going to dive into the defense later. The PFF grade for Quay Walker, 59.6. Now, if the argument is he's not getting the most out of his players, I completely understand. I got you. And I think that has to be judged too. But this whole we're only going to judge someone by their worst performances is just stuff Chicago Bears fans do, man. Like it's just burn it all down. I think you could do better. Do I think Wink Martindale is a better DC? Absolutely. But here's the other thing you got to take into consideration with Wink Martindale. He's an alpha, right? Why did he leave Baltimore? No one can answer that question, why he left Baltimore and went to the Giants. And then you fast forward to the Giants. What happened with the Giants? He stormed out of their last meeting, right? and went to Florida and didn't talk to the team since. So they fired him and let him go. I'm sorry, if everywhere you go, it smells like crap, probably on your boot. That's 2 teams in a row that he couldn't make it work with. Is he pissed off that he's not getting head coaching jobs? Could be. But now you think about bringing him into the building and you create a little bit of turmoil there. Let's just put it this way. How did the Giants do with Wink Martindale as their DC? They had a bad year, right?
Oh, no! We suck again!
Exactly correct, Tim. Now, let's go back to Baltimore. How has Baltimore done since Wink left?
For you.
So this whole idea that Wink Martindale is the second coming of freaking Buddy Ryan, you know what I mean? Like, there's a lot of other things that come into factor. Do I think he's a better play caller, a better DC than Joe Barry? Absolutely. But if he comes in and acts like an asshat and disrupts everything in the building, I don't want him. So that's why my response to Wink is always, so is he coming in to be the DC and Matt's right-hand man and actually be a organization first guy? Absolutely, sign me up. But nobody can guarantee me that, you know? So that's the tough part I have about Wink Martindale, if that makes sense. But I appreciate the super chat, buddy. And again, I think we're on the same page with Barry. Now, as far as does Matt LaFleur fire him, the more time goes by, I feel like it ain't going to happen. But I could be wrong. Let's see. Randy Cleavers with the super chat. Appreciate you, buddy. He said, our defense is coming together. Add some pieces and keep it rolling. Defensive line is the big thing that sticks out to me. Defensive line. I mean, there's a lot of holes. Just to give you a sneak preview of the night, and we'll wrap up right here. I think we need 2 defensive linemen, 2 linebackers, 4 corners, and 4 safeties. Put that into perspective.
Clayton saying we need 4 corners. Wow.
Bro, and think about this. This is
our 14 picks go to defense then, Clayton?
Exactly. It's coming.
Yeah.
If they take a corner in the first round, people are going to lose their mind, but it's coming. Jair Alexander graded out 74.3. He's the only player in the cornerback room I got in the green. And we'll talk about this more in depth later. Next, the highest graded is Robert Rochelle at 64.4. Next is Keyshawn Nixon at 60.7. Next is Corey Ballantyne at 59.8. Now, keep in mind his passer rating against was the best on the team. And PFF has him grading out at 59.8. That shows you how bad the cornerback room is. Carrington Valentine, 57.5. 7th-round pick. What else are you going to expect, right? Eric Stokes, 51.5. That's a first-round pick. One of these precious first-round picks. We've dumped all this draft capital into the defensive side, and Joe Barry's a moron. He can't make it work. Maybe we missed on some of these picks. So all those corners, like I said, Robert Rochelle's a restricted free agent. I think they'll bring him back for special teams. Keyshawn Nixon, unrestricted free agent. I think they'll bring him back because of his kick return ability, right? But you notice how we're not saying because they're a good cornerback? So the only good corner you got on the roster right now, in my opinion, is Jair Alexander. That's according to PFF. So I think you're going to see at least 2, possibly 4 cornerbacks added to the cornerback room. Because as it sits right now, the only one that are returning are Jair Alexander, Corey Ballantyne, Carrington Valentine, and Eric Stokes. And those last 3 I mentioned are booty cheeks. There you go. That's how I feel anyway. People, I know I'm going to get roasted over that, but I'm just saying, like, everyone who thinks that this DB room is great, give me your argument. Because SIS disagrees, PFF disagrees. You turn on the tape, you go, damn. Now, again, what was the other thing we pointed out when we broke down the roster or broke down the entire team? What were the negative aspects on defense? The only thing that went backwards on defense this year was turnovers, right? How many drop picks did we have? Jair dropped picks. Darnell Savage dropped picks. Quay Walker dropped picks. Like, as a DC, are you saying it's Joe Barry's fault that they can't catch an interception? Because that's a hard pass for me, you know?
And look at where they were when these plays happen. That's the key, right? You talk about being schemed into position to make a play, then you got to make that play.
Absolutely. And pass coverage, according to the 33rd team, total points, right? Grading the players, just the players. Here are the total points they earned on the year. Last year, it was at 7.6, and those total points dropped all the way down to 5.7 this year. So, according to the 33rd team and PFF, your pass coverage has got to get better. It's got to. And it has nothing to do with the play call. It has nothing to do with the scheme. It has with the players not performing. So there's going to be at least 2 new corners in that room this year. Like I said, I could see as many as 4. I'm not saying you go first round, second round, third round, fourth round. I'm thinking you get a couple of cheap free agents to try to hit another Rasul Douglas, right? Remember how Rasul played. So that still hurts. I don't want to talk. I'm tired of talking about Rasul. It's like if Rasul's on this roster, I feel okay about the corner room. Got to get a little bit of depth. But we got our 3rd round pick, boys. We're good to go. So all right, I'm done. Anybody else got anything you want to add? Let's go around the horn. Tim, what do you got, man?
Looking forward to going live tonight, breaking down the defense in full detail, and just happy to have the squad all here. Got the boys in the house here on a morning. I love it. Emilio, good to see you. Jacob, the beard is here. Always makes me feel good that you guys are in here, and it's a good thing we got going, man. It's going to be a great off season as we ramp up for the Super Bowl run in 2024. So make sure you guys tune in tonight and check us out, man. We're going to continue to break things down. So very happy to be here. That's all I got today.
Absolutely. Jacob, what you got, bub?
Yeah, I think I'll be able to join tonight, hopefully, if everything works out. I'm just excited. I'm really excited to get into the draft stuff. Once I cracked open the PFF and really started looking at a couple different lists and rankings, all of a sudden I'm just like, ooh, boy.
Jacob's getting excited.
Everybody looks at, does that differently. I personally like looking at each list, and then I go right to YouTube and I put in highlights. I start with highlights and then I work backwards because I do think highlights are important. Anyways, we'll get into it. We got lots of time to do that stuff. I hope we go cornerback first round. I really do. I hope it's Kool-Aid. It's either Kool-Aid or Cooper DeJean. I'm going to be a happy man.
Coolest name, man. Coolest name. Emilio, what you got, bub?
Second Tim and Jacob's points there. Appreciate everyone on the pod, everyone in the chat, you 3 right here, and I'm excited for what's to come here in the off season, man. We had a great season, and let's get after it, man. Hashtag hire Joe Barry, right? Let's start it now.
Reef pointed out lots of injuries in the DB room, and let's see. No, not that one. William says, correct, Reef, and Barry did a heck of a job with backups for most of the year. People forget that. All you hear is they got all these first-round picks. It's like, bro, they're starting Ballantyne and Valentine, a 7th rounder, and I don't even know where Ballantyne was drafted. So if he was, I don't know. Anyway, it's wild. So, yeah, I agree with that, William. Again, he's not perfect. I think you can do better, but you got to put things into perspective for sure. Now we'll go to it. Eric Sutherland says, Stokes is a great cheerleader. Maybe we trade him to Dallas. Come on, Eric. Be nice. What's wrong with you, dude?
Yeah, here we go.
That's an elite group, though. Those Cowboy cheerleaders. That is elite group. That is elite.
Did you hear that? I don't want to get into it. God, I'm going to get canceled.
Yeah, don't get into it.
Yeah. They said that the Packers players were mean to him on the sideline. 32 cameras in the stadium didn't catch a damn glimpse of it, but they were mean to him. So there you go.
Sounds like a conspiracy.
Look at Tim. As soon as you said it, Jacob, Tim's head went. All right, we're out of here, guys. We'll see y'all tonight. Appreciate everybody hanging out with us. Let's give a special shout out real quick to our boys, Mike Witt. Thank you for the super chat. Randy Cleavers, thank you for the super chat. Really, really, really appreciate y'all so much. We'll see you guys this evening. We'll break down the defense. Jacob, if you want to dive into a little bit of draft stuff and you have time, comb through corners and safeties for me in the draft a little bit, and just maybe a handful of names for tonight if you want to. That'd be a cool little.
Yeah, it'd be fun.
All right, awesome. We'll see you guys tonight. Thank you all for hanging out with us. For those of you listening on the pod, thank you for making us a part of your day. As always, let's go out and be the change we want to see in the world, and go Pack, go.